It's always the way here in the West. A fabulous crowd at Barbagallo Raceway, and they have certainly been treated for their loyalty to the V8 Supercar Championship Series. There's an indication of just how many people are here. And some breaking news in regards to the championship points.
That margin between Marcus Ambrose and Russell Ingall should have been larger than it currently is, but they've docked 25 points from Marcus's championship total between races 2 and 3 after further investigation of the incident between he and Mark Skaife on the approach to turn 1. So it was assessed to be an illegal move where Mark Skaife, that is, was squeezed to the grass. Marcus had to serve a drive-through penalty. 25 points have come off his championship tally, but he's still in command together with his teammate Russell Ingall. And speaking of Russell, he'll share the front row of the grid here with Stephen Richards.
Cars are just about ready to roll. Darryl has an update.
An update on Stephen Richards is that he's fine-tuned that car even more for this third race. He said it has a little bit of understeer when the tanks are full, but as it burns off, it gets stronger and stronger. So we've made an adjustment to make that better. Greg Murphy has replaced the diff in that car and 2 new axles after it broke that right rear axle, which was a HMS part.
The HSV dealer team are not having campers at the moment. Matthew Nielsen, who's the engineer on Garth Tander's car, is adamant their data did not exceed 39.9 kilometres an hour during Tander's time in the lane for that pit stop in race 2. Meantime, the Perkins crew here who work on the Autobahn entry of Paul Dumbrell have changed the engine and gearbox for the final race, a major failure early in race 2.
Thanks, boys, for that. Plenty going on here at Barbagallo all race weekend. As we take a look at the grid, the Talon Tough Tools lineup, and their starting positions reflect the finishing positions of the second race. And as Richards leads the field away, it was a dynamic duel between Lowndes and Johnson. Will they continue that? Well, Lowndes is on a real mission at the moment. He wants to win this one, and so too is the man starting from 5th position. Neil just told you about his 25-point championship loss there. He'll be really fired up now.
Marcus had incredible speed towards the latter part of that race, and there are a whole group of drivers up near the top there that have done a remarkable job this weekend of salvaging something. They include Paul Wheel, Marcus Ambrose, Stephen Johnson, who was so fast on Friday, and it looked as though he was going to have a shocker. He's now redeemed himself and is in a pretty good position for this final race.
It's easy to knock people when they're not going so well. We should congratulate them when they are running strong. David Bernard just outside the top 10 in the WPS Ford, so that'll give the Wright Patton Shakespeare boys a bit of a spring in their step heading into this third and final race. It is round 3, and we've had 2 different winners from the first 2 races. Mark Skaife cleaned up yesterday, Stephen Richards victorious earlier today. As we go on board with Greg Murphy, he has got a lot of work to do after that failed rear axle, and that was so costly for Greg Murphy in the championship points. He slid from 3rd to 9th, equally for Mark Skaife with that first corner tangle. That sent Skaife from 4th to 8th in the championship. The big winner in race 2 was Paul Radisich. He is now elevated to 3rd. The eyes are on for Ambrose.
Just aligning himself there with a mark on the wall to make sure in position. Stephen Richards doing precisely the same. Every millimetre counts.
Lowndes with the visor down. There's business to do. And he needs to redeem himself after that error in yesterday's first race. He has got a very strong starting position on that inside line.
And it's a very easy thing to do. It probably seems a bit unusual, but it's so simple to catch both pedals in a V8 supercar if you just misposition your foot ever so slightly. Most drivers have done it at some point. It happened to Lowndes at a critical moment when he could ill afford it.
We saw a terrific crowd shot earlier. I want to congratulate the folks of Western Australia for their patronage. 82,500 people, the total for the weekend, and that's not counting kids under 12. So that's a huge crowd here. The revs rise, you can hear the roar. V8 Supercar Championship, race 3, round 3. Richards on the inside, and he's got the jump.
He made a blinder lead. It was a perfect start for Richards. Look at this trouble again.
Wheel and Ambrose.
Completely crossed up sideways in the grass on the run to turn 1. Russell slotted immediately to the right-hand side of the road to grab 2nd spot and close off from Stephen Johnson. Lowndes is in 4th. Then it's Wheel, then Ambrose as they sweep left up the hill.
Paul Wheel, very aggressive from the get-go. Stephen Johnson, a winner there. He got the jump on Craig Lowndes. So that battle between the 2 Ford drivers continues. It's Stephen Richards, Russell Ingall, Stephen Johnson, Craig Lowndes, Paul Wheel, you're right now with Ambrose. Wheel up ahead.
Oh, and Paul Wheel's car just cracked sideways under the throttle there as he came out of turn 6 with a full fuel load and cool tyres. And it will have slowed up his exit on the corner, and that's made him a bit vulnerable here to Marcus, but they're all having a look at the back of Lowndes as well.
Tucked in behind Ambrose, Jason Bright in the Cat Ford. Who's behind him? Cam McConville, Radicic. They get a bit squiggly over the ripple strip there. Then it's Jason Bargwanna in the Orcon Ford. Big dive up the inside here.
Craig made a mistake on the exit of turn 7. Bright's going in there as well. He's going to pay dearly for it. He got a little crossed up and he went right up over the top of the exit ripple strip. He got a very bad run down pit straight. He's just dropped a couple of spots and they're monstering him here going into turn 4.
That looked fairly calm there, but it's all happening behind Craig Lowndes. He's getting the big shove. McConville, Radicic, Bargwanna, Bernard, they're all lining up. Ellery fighting with Wilson. There's Glenn Seaton. Morris in behind them. They're further down the order. That's 16th, 17th, 18th place.
Question of lost opportunities for Seaton this weekend after that mix-up with the rattle gun and the interpretation of the rules for Dick Johnson Racing. Look at this battle here that involves John Bowe, Garth Tanders in there, and Lowndes is continuing to drift. So he's finding himself being really knocked around by everybody at the moment.
Neil, it's interesting. I spoke to Roland Dane and Craig earlier on, and they took adjustments to that car. They said they really struggle with all the restarts here this weekend, just initially off cold tyres, or when the temperature dropped, they just find it hard to go with the teams earlier, and it seems like they're still struggling with that.
Paul Radicic off and well wide of the course down there.
It might just be a tie rod, and we'll try and fix it. You can keep on going so you can drive.
Fastest man on the racetrack is Russell Ingall, a 57.5 on the last lap, and he's now running with Stephen Richards. There's a margin back to third. The temperature has jumped up here pretty substantially this afternoon. 28-degree air temperature, 34-degree track temperature, not a cloud in sight, and drivers will complain of a lack of grip in these conditions. Generally, everybody will be tending to slide around a little more in this third one.
And look at Lowndes. He's just getting battered. He's now right back there. Wilson's got through. His teammate is lining up for a shot as well.
I reckon something may have happened. He's made contact with somebody, I reckon, and bent a steering arm because he couldn't drop back through the field that quickly without some substantial issue going on. Maybe he's flat spotted a tyre. I wouldn't mind betting that in all that clanging and banging down there at turn 7 a couple of laps ago, that he's bent a steering arm.
Well, he was 4th a couple of laps ago. He's languishing down in 13th now. Struggling. Not the final race of the day that he was looking for. Up front, though, it's smooth sailing for Stephen Richards, but Ingall is on the attack in the Caltex Ford. You're right with Ambrose now. He's hassling the back of Super Cheap Autos' Paul Wheel, who was sensational in that second race, 27th to 6th, and now Paul Wheel runs in 4th.
57.2, Russell Ingall, new fastest lap of the race. A lot of cranky drivers out there. It tends to happen at this track because we have so many close competitive cars on a short lap time interval, and so a lot of aggravation in the paddock between races here. When you talk to people, every second person shaking his head about one issue or another. The important thing is when they go racing out there now that they cleanse their minds of all this stuff and get on with some good clean racing. So far so good. Fastest man now is Stephen Richards, 57 flat, as the tyre pressures normalise and the tyre temperatures stabilise.
Next lap around, the pit window is open for the compulsory tyre stop.
Not sure how much of this is just information that's being kept, or a lid being kept on it at the moment, but I've been in and had a word to Campbell Little at 888. He says there is no reports of problems from Lowndes' car at the moment, but I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, there's definitely something going on there. They're obviously just being cagey at the moment, Greg, but we'll probably hear more about it in due course.
Something's happened to Marcus Ambrose. Ambrose is sliding down the order. He's disappeared off the timing monitor.
I think he's run off somewhere, is the word that I'm hearing. 57 even for Richards, 57,007 with his last...
This lap, mate, in this lap.
And that's the voice of Paul Forgy saying, in this lap for car number 1, Marcus Ambrose. And it's starting to be one of those weekends for him. Here he is down here at turn 6. On the exit, climbing the hill. Does he get a bit of dirt? He does. He gets out in the dirt. Big moment, tries to keep the foot in it, drops a couple of spots, probably more than that by the time he gets to the braking area. go. So that's the full replay. So he dropped a few spots there, got crossed up, and now comes in, gets a clean set of boots on and locks up. Oh, he'll be very close to exceeding the pit lane speed limit across the white line there, but he had it all locked up and slid her in.
I'm in the pit there, mate. I'm trying to push there, but I think that might get better.
Total lack of grip there by comparison to the racetrack. The close rate is enormous. You've got to get the car down to a regulated 40 kilometres an hour.
So Ambrose the first in to change tyres. And they are following. So some clear track space now for Ambrose. Can he make the most of this? And it's a good clean start to race through.
Starlight, Marcus, starlight.
Lowndes takes advantage of that as well. It's been a weekend littered with caution periods.
Lowndes' crew did a brilliant job, Lee. 3.17 seconds to change the rear tyres. The team didn't want me to have a look at them, but I can tell you there was a small flat spot on one of those rears as they wheeled them back into the garage.
Up front, Stephen Richards leads to the tune of half a second over Russell Ingall. These two guys are steady, smooth, out in front, and doing it comfortably. Look at the margin back to third. Stephen Johnson is a good distance behind Russell Ingall.
This will unfold as a real pressure motor race between these two. Their cars have been very evenly matched all weekend. They've not put a foot wrong. They've stayed out of trouble. This gives you, when you see the back of Stephen Richards' car here, it'll give me a good indication of how it's behaving, and it's behaving well. Whenever you can drive shallow out of turn 6 there and you don't see the car yawing and twisting sideways under power, then you know that it'll accept a reasonable percentage of throttle. You can drive out cleanly. He's hitting all of his apexes. It's remarkable when you're in a car like on board here with Russell's, when you're in the race car, you can study the back of the other cars and you end up with a very clear picture of where your own strengths or weaknesses lie. It helps in the debriefing process.
Strathfield telemetry giving you the figures there. Still riding with Russell Ingall. Watch his footwork.
A fascinating shot. It gives you an idea that motor racing is as much, if not more, a foot sport than a hand skill.
What about your head?
Jason Bright stalled on departure, then I understand, in the FPR car.
Scaife serviced as well in behind Bright. There's championship implications for Marcus Ambrose. A slight error there as well. Only 15 points between he and teammate Russell Ingall. If Ingall can win this or stay on the podium, things are looking good for the enforcer.
Stephen Richards is due in, and he's in now. So there he is, flicking the green light off. The stop's been done effectively. It was a very efficient stop from the Perkins crew. No fuss.
A sub-4 second stop. It was a brilliant effort by the Perkins crew, and crucially, Paul Wheel is in the lane at the moment with Stephen Richards. Go. Traffic for both of those guys. Same for Mark Scaife and Jason Bright when they pitted the lap prior, Neil.
Clear. Clear, mate, clear.
Nice work there by those guys to get out, and they are out ahead of Ambrose. Look at the tyre mark on the inside of Ambrose's car. He's been in the thick of it this weekend, that's for sure, the Pertec pilot.
The order at the moment is Ingall, Johnson, McConville, Bargwanna. I spoke to Jace just before the start of the race, and he's had a fraught weekend, but he's been clawing his way back. He said, I've had to race for it, and he's spot on with that.
As Ingall comes in, that's relief for Bargwanna, just to get some points. He's had a very troublesome start to the year.
Slides in for the stop. This team with both Ambrose and Russell have the third wheel. They're sitting as a spare case. There's a drama with another. This is interesting. He's out in front of Stephen Richards, maybe. Richards down the inside.
Wow, great stop, Stone Brothers.
But he's on cold tyres, and he's going to have to hustle the thing or he'll be vulnerable when he gets down to turn 6, and he knows that Richo's right there with him, but I think he's got enough of a margin.
So it's switched. Ingall's got out in front via the pit stop. Let's watch this battle.
Cold tyre understeer through turn 4 there. The tyres will be starting to come up now, and he's going to be okay.
That just goes to show you how good that extra lap was from Russell Ingall and how good the Stone Brothers guys were, because it was a sub 4-second pit stop from the Castrol Perkins gang. So they were both slick stops. Stone Brothers and Ingall with the slight advantage. But it was slight enough. It's put Russell in front.
Great outlap from Russell in these conditions. It's not an easy thing to do to go out there on stone cold tyres. They'll have been laying them out in the sun to try and make as much temperature from the ambient conditions as they can, but he's dropped the car on the ground, bolted out the gate, not put a foot wrong, didn't even see a wisp of smoke on that lap, locking a front brake. And that's a nice bit of driving, and it's obviously a car that's working particularly well.
Stephen Johnson is the leader on the track at the moment, but he is yet to pit. Likewise, the top 13 or 14 cars. We'll see how it all shakes out when we return. You're watching round 3 of the V8 Supercars from Barbagallo. Top 4 cars are yet to complete their compulsory pit stops for tyres. That's Max Wilson, Todd Kelly, Jamie Whincup and Craig Baird. That's why this guy, Russell Ingall, leads the race. And he's got a healthy margin by a couple of seconds over Stephen Richards.
Getting reports also that Mark Scaife's car is misfiring at the moment. He's 15th on the timing board. Stephen's just made a little bit of a comeback in the margin.
And these 3 guys are having a good scrap. Paul Dumbrella's had more problems while we're away in that commercial break. He ran off the track. But look at this trio. Paul Wheel, Marcus Ambrose, Cameron McConville, all have completed their stops. Ambrose goes for the big dive. Has Paul Wheel seen it? Yes. Good, clever driving by Paul Wheel. He used his mirrors there. And Ambrose was right on the edge.
That was great. Little bit of situational awareness from Paul Wheel. If he'd committed, if he'd stayed with the race line that he was committed to initially, those two would have made contact. He glanced the mirror note out. He spotted Marcus sliding in there, and he sidestepped him and saved the paint swap. Lost the place. Here we go again. Zinger replay tells the story. Watch the back of Marcus's car. Locks the brakes. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And then Paul just puts a whisker of left lock on it, leaves the gap open. Marcus gets it down the inside, job done, no scratches.
Smart driving by the super cheap man, but now he comes under attack from Cameron McConville. This is the battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th. There's McConville, good drive, nice way to finish the weekend. He's in the top 5, can he stay there? Long way to go.
Mark Scaife has been confirmed through the HRT team, Neil, that it does have a misfire. They're saying it just has no straight line handling whatsoever, and the wheel's out from Todd Kelly. Looks like he's going to go for 2 down the left-hand side again. Good
stop by the Dick Johnson Racing team, but it didn't go as well as they had hoped. It was 5.6 seconds, not as fast as some here in the lane, and they had a slight drama with the right rear tyre on Stephen Johnson's car. That's why he's popped out after the break in his track position now. As far as the Tasman team are concerned, boy, they've had some tyre dramas today. Jamie Whincup had a valve split on a tyre in the last race, and Jason Richards just ventured into the lane moments ago with a deflating left rear tyre.
Been a very productive weekend for the Repco Valvoline car of Cameron McConville. Here comes the HRT machine. Slowly down pit lane, Todd Kelly in for his service. McConville qualified his equal best in 5th. He's had 2 top 10 results.
Watch your limit, watch your limit.
Ambrose has gapped Wheel fairly easily, hasn't he?
Oh, bad news here for Cam McConville. I think he's been pinged for a pit lane speeding violation.
Oh no!
Speed, okay.
And that's Phil Curtis, his engineer on the radio, who was with the Brad Jones Racing in recent years, and they've certainly stepped up the performance of that car this year. Cameron looked as though he was on for a good result.
Just when we were heaping the praise on him, he has to come in and serve that stop-go. Glenn Seaton is all over the back of Todd Kelly here.
And at one point, those 2 cars, I think, got together in race 1.
Yes.
I'll just butt in here quickly, guys. It's funny because I spoke to Garth Tander before this race, and he's from the same team as Cam McConville. I said, how was the last race? Well, he's not from the same team now. He's with the other team, but the same situation happened with him. He said, we got done for pit lane speed, and he said, we weren't speeding at all when we looked at our data.
Yeah, one of the issues, though, that often they look at the data in terms of the actual lane speed, which is electronically governed by the pit lane speed limiter. But where the infringements tend to occur is on the approach. And of course, it can be vigorously debated. But the problem is that it's a judge of fact situation. We've all been down there and had the blue over the years, but it never works to your advantage. So if you came scooting into the lane and you skidded across the white line and you were above your 40 Ks at that point, you're a goner.
Bad luck, yeah.
And you know, we've all trotted out with data at different times. The problem is you don't know where the reference point is in your data, and you have to rely on the guy whose ultimate job it is to make that judgment call. It's hard, but we have to live with it.
Well, Gary Rogers, pit lane speeding is always a contentious issue. Do you feel hard done by here?
Well, I mean, they said he was speeding. Whether he was or not, I don't know. I mean, the rules bunk him anyway, but if it's the rule, it's the rule. And, I mean, if he broke it, you got to cop it.
Your driver came through pit lane with his hands in the air. He doesn't believe that he's done the wrong thing.
No, but the driver never does.
Thanks, Gary.
Your comment, Grompo?
Yeah, exactly. The thing is that it's exactly what I said. It's in the leading edge of the pit lane. It's at the approach end of the pit lane where the problem can occur. So it's really got anything to do with what actually goes on in the lane.
Have a look at this. Richards has closed the gap substantially. The battle is on at the front here. Pressure coming on the Stone Brothers driver, Russell Ingall. Not yet at the halfway point of this race. And Richards is coming on strong, exactly like he did in race 1. And of course, no need to explain what happened in race 2. He was the victor.
Cars have burned off somewhere between probably 30 and 35 litres of fuel now, so the balance is changing. Temperature is up. Tyres are starting to feel it. 3 sets of tyres allocated this weekend. The third of 3 races. Getting to that point in the weekend where you just have to be skilled in the art of guiding a car that's beginning to lose grip on a low grip circuit with a lot of gravel on it, a lot of rubber build-up, a lot of traffic. You drive the car off your fingertips and you exploit every last millimetre. And earlier I would have picked that maybe Stephen Richards' car had a little understeer and it was perhaps losing to Russell. Now that's just starting to change, and it might be that Russell's car is just using perhaps its rear tyres a little bit more and Stephen's rears have been a bit protected. Would only make a difference of 100th or 2 in a lap. It's the only difference between these two guys at the moment. I'll tell you what it is. 56.9694 for Russell last lap. 56.9577 for Stephen. So you're talking about a cigarette paper difference in car performance, but he is getting millimetre closer.
As they stand at the moment, Russell Ingall would lose the round by only 2 points to Stephen Richards.
What you have to be so careful of in this scenario is that you don't get greedy and think to yourself, well, I'll just brake later. We're on the run down here to turn 7. I'll change my rhythm slightly. Squeeze the brake pedal a little hard or a little late, lock a brake, and all your good work is undone. So you've got to be patient. And Stephen's done enough of this over a long period of time now to know how to pace himself, and so has Russell. So this will, as I said before, be an intriguing battle between these two.
Well, look at Stephen's heritage. His father, Jim, multiple-time Bathurst winner, very savvy, smart driver for years and years and years. It's a long gap back to third, isn't it, to Ambrose? Then we take it back to Paul Wheel in fourth. There's West Point Racing, Stephen Johnson in the top 5. Huge day for those guys. West Point is a West Australian-based company, so they'll be crossing their fingers that Johnson can hold in there for a top 5. Bright is 6th, Bow is 7th. That's a good result for Team BOC. Max Wilson is 8th from Scaife and Morris, the top 10. Look forward to hearing what you have to say. Stephen Johnson, great drive. He's in the top 5 behind Paul Wheel, ahead of John Bow, who just put a fairly nifty move on Jason Bright during the break. Bright's got troubles, Neil.
It seems like he's starting to suffer from the rear tyres degrading on that car, and the car's gone out of balance. It's sliding around a lot. He's been discussing with his engineer Phil Keat as to whether or not they make anti-roll bar setting changes. I think he might also have a little flat spot on one of the front tyres, but it's an unhappy race as the weekend draws to a close for Jason Bright. Looked like he was off to a pretty good start on Friday. They're still not totally on top of this car in that team at the moment, but they're certainly making some progress. He's inside the top 10. Mark Scaife still soldiering along in 8th place. The order at the moment: Ingall, Richards, Ambrose, Wheel, Johnson, Bow, Wilson, Scaife, Bright. Bow's actually got pretty good pace. He's right at the bottom end of the 57s. He's certainly closer to breaking a 56th in the next group in front of him.
Neil, you're right about Jason Bright's situation. I've just been in and had a word to Phil Keed for you. He says not only have one of the rear tyres gone off, but he's flat-spotted a front as well, so the car's out of balance. Brighty doesn't feel like that tyre that's been flat-spotted is due to delaminate. Drama here for one of the FPR cars. Ritter involved, I think, with Lowndes.
Yes, it is. Craig Lowndes in the dust bowl. And this will bring out a full course caution.
Yeah, you're right there.
No, both cars able to get going.
Got no front spoiler, mate. Front spoiler's gone.
It's Campbell Little talking to Craig Lowndes. And pretty heavy damage, I think, on this car.
Rear spoiler looks broken too, boys. Rear spoiler looks broken too.
Craig, put your down, please.
He's just peeled off on the short circuit here, gone beneath our cherry picker in the camera point, and he'll bring the car back to the pit lane, smash the rear wing, smash the front air dam. It's all missing, and it'll have geometry damage on the car as well as he's whacked up against the concrete wall. In fact, he may even just end up parking it there. Either way, it's disappointing end to what could have been a promising weekend. Now, what's happened here on turn one? This is the replay. And, OK, so this is where Ritter makes contact in the side of the Lowndes car. And what happens? They run out of road when they go to the little left-hand kink. Now I understand. And the front right's made contact with the wall there. And the fans got a good view of all that. One of the Gary Rogers cars went off at turn 4 as a result of it. The two of them just absolutely headbutting each other here. Oh, actually, Ritter's given the wall a pretty reasonable little rub there as well, and it was because of all the garbage on the road. That was the reason why the Valvoline car went off.
Nothing in it at the front. Richards is still staying with Russell Ingall. This is a good, tight battle. The man who used to drive for Castrol Perkins leading the race to the man who currently sits in that spot. Ingall Richards. It's a healthy gap back to Ambrose. Wheel maintains his 4th. And then it's Stephen Johnson, John Bowe, Max Wilson. Good drive in the Wales Sight and Sound Commodore. Ahead of Scaife, who's come from 29th to 8th. Pretty handy drive that. And then Bright and Morris, again in the Suramay Commodore, in the top 10.
Stephen's just about in striking distance here now. And there's the damage on the Lowndes car. Using the go jacks there to jack the car up, so they'll pivot it around and put it back in the garage. The bumper bar support there, that black bar around the front. Kevin, just by the driver's door, Rusty's in hot pursuit behind CL at the moment, and I'm sure there won't be a lot of comedy down there in that garage.
Day done. From a weekend that started on pole position, it has not yielded many championship points. Now, to win the round, Stephen Johnson only needs to stay where he is in second place. But I don't think he's going to be content for second. He'll want to win this one. Steve Richards, second, going great.
Traffic's starting to play a role in this now as well. Grabbing 4th gear over the top of the hill, now 5th. Underneath the Brytech entry, or Stephen gets right into proximity with Russell Ingall. The traffic's just changed the rhythm of the race down there. Now he's got to run at him. He'll have a nibble at him when they come down here to turn 7. Russell's a wake up. He goes to the right. Richo stays on the race line. He'll be able to brake more effectively. They will go side by side here at 7. Look for the crisscross move. Tries to get up the inside. This is going to be a great contest at turn 1.
Oh, he's squeezing Richards, and Stephen's not close enough. Russell Ingall maintains the lead. We said that second was enough for Richo, but he's not going to be content. He's shown us that. Good, tight, close racing.
Good stuff. All started when they had to round up the Brytech car down at turn 6 here on the previous lap. It just pulled Russell up a little bit slower than his normal rhythm. It allowed Stephen to get at him. And then a couple of very experienced, smart operators applied their trade down the bottom there. It was good to watch, wasn't it?
Craig Lowndes, your words to Campbell Little just a few moments ago were the car was majorly oversteering. What happened with Greg Ritter?
Well, really, from the start of the race, something's broken in the car, and we were fighting oversteer the whole, right throughout from the start, and couldn't put the power down and losing a lot of time over at turn 6. And everyone could sort of get me on the exit of corners, so I just couldn't put the power down as much as I wanted to. So,
think you know what it is?
No, I don't at the moment, but this is disappointing just for the finish this way. The car wasn't perfect, but at least it was in a lot better shape than what it is now.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks.
And because you leap very aggressively across, particularly that curb that Stephen just went past on the right there at turn 3, it's quite easy here to, and you see a bit of evidence of it this weekend, to break an anti-roll bar link. Judging by Craig's description of the car, that might have been the case here, and it just makes the thing a handful. It slides all over the place.
He does walk away with 92 championship points, so all is not lost as we join Max Wilson, Mark Scaife, having a pretty good fight here. And this is the battle for 7th spot. Team Longhurst driver has done the deal for the rest of the year. You may notice some additional signage there from BP on the car also. So that's good. Wilson is locked in for the rest of the season, and the little Brazilian's pretty happy about that.
These guys will be starting to feel this a little bit now. We're 36 laps recorded in this race. And, oh, look at this, chasing him across the road.
Oh, Paul Morris, and I think it's Todd Kelly, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Todd Kelly's been involved in a number of incidents here in turn 1 this weekend, but this time it's not going to be one.
Hello, mate. Going now.
That's a conversation between Todd Kelly and Matt Crawford, and that was pretty close down the front straight there in the pit straight. Paul's moving across to cover himself into turn 1. Been an awkward weekend so far for Todd Kelly with a few problems.
Mark Scaife's doing a pretty good job to be in 8th position with that car. Has a misfire. Spoke to Robbie Starr. He said, Mark says it misfires bad on the left-hand turns, cuts out, and then all of a sudden it'll come good again. So they're not exactly sure what the problem is there, but still good to be in 8th.
Absolutely, and Murphy's joining in this bunch as well. He's back in 12th place.
And Seaton's right there as well. And yesterday, Murphy and Todd got together down here at turn 1. And said earlier in the broadcast there was a little bit of aggravation after that incident yesterday. Former teammates weren't impressed with what happened down at turn 1.
Boys are behaving themselves in this 3rd and final race. Not one single yellow flag period, not a caution. Just completely different to the rest of the weekend. Hey, a reminder to you for our Super Cheap Muscle Mania competition. The entry code this week is Holden. That's if you've spent $30 or more at a Super Cheap Auto store. You can SMS the code, which is Holden, to our Australian viewers, 1977-5151, and the Kiwi viewers, 8844.
Big problem down there at turn 6, Lee. Sorry to interrupt, but there was dust and stuff everywhere, and I thought we might have had a problem. It's Ritter who's gone off down there, and cars are going off on the gravel.
That's rolled.
It's rolled. There's obviously some rubbish on the road, and
it's Brad Jones
again.
2nd race in a row, he's on his roof.
He'll be, this will be a frustration for Bradley, because he's been recovering in the last couple of weeks from the big one at Pukekohe, and this stunt will be getting a bit second-hand in his mind, and someone's gone to help. I think that's Paul Radisich, actually, that's gone to help. He was down there watching. And I think Bradley will be okay. Compared to the one in New Zealand. The problem is you've got to undo your belts and not actually end up dropping on the roof of the car.
Yeah.
You've got to unplug your radio, and then you've got to detach yourself from your drink bottle and your Hans device.
And this is an indication, an illustration of the camaraderie that exists in V8 Supercars. Paul Radisich there, who was stranded. He was running in the top 5 in this race, ran off the circuit with his own problems, and now he's there trying to help. Kim Jones, centre of the screen, brother to Brad, team manager. I'm sure they're in as much disbelief as we are for the 2nd consecutive race meeting to see the BOC machine on its lid.
And they've done a massive amount of work on that car to get it back in shape. Full course yellow's now been declared. are you, Bradley?
Fortunately, this time, although it's the same outcome, the car upside down, it's very different to what happened in Pukekohe, and at least it happened in the gravel trap.
He actually had a fair clip of speed up here, but it tripped over itself right at the very end. It was, in terms of the speed of the roll, it just fell over on itself. I think he'll be okay.
Yeah.
Got my fingers crossed. But yeah, there he is. And
there's the Rat, Paul Radicic, saying, "You okay, mate?" And Brad Jones is okay. Daryl?
Well, Kim, I was about to ask you if you'd heard from Brad. Obviously, now we can see him with the footage there. He's out of the car and okay, but disappointing for that thing to be on its roof again.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Everything was going great. Maybe somebody put some sand on the circuit, I don't know, but there was no indication from us that anything was going on. It's ironic, actually, because I had somebody who wanted to pay for a sign underneath the car, and I said, oh, that won't happen again. One race on, and poor thing's upside down again. So, and I feel so bad for the guys. They worked so hard to get a result, to get the car back again after New Zealand, and here we are again in the same spot. Go home, work our guts out, so that we get to Eastern Creek. But anyway, that's the way it is.
Well, hopefully there's a positive out of it. It looked like it tripped over late there in the sand at the end, so the damage might not be too bad.
Yeah, very soft roll, but I tell you, if that guy wants to put his name underneath it, I'll take his money now.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
And the rescue team able to get it right way up. How much damage do you think there, Neil?
Well, there's always more than meets the eye, and obviously roof, bonnet, the rear wing assembly. And I was just talking in the brake chair there before, Lee, about the fact that when you go to do the work back in the workshop, it's all the little things that you suddenly realise, oh, hang on, that bracket's bent, and if we sort of straighten it up again, it'll be weak, so we need to replace it. And then captive nuts no longer align with bolts, and so you end up replacing those, and then you realise that one job leads to another, and it's just a process where you chase yourself for a while, and it's distracting for the workshop because invariably there's other work that's being processed as well to keep new bits coming, and it just puts you behind your program. Most teams are budgeted for it in the sense that they know these things can happen during the season. They have standby plans and they have enough spares built in reserve to deal with it. But when you get two back-to-back, like they've had now New Zealand and this weekend, gee whiz, that's hard work. And the schedules are very tight between these races, and obviously with the Chinese round coming as well, there's the preparation logistical challenge for that.
Well, Max Wilson proving a good showing in this race, currently lying in 6th. He mentioned earlier they had a dud shock in the front of that car in race 2, and they used the same tyres in race 1 and 2, and for this race he had 6 good tyres, so good result from him at the moment.
Just spoke to Chris Jewell up at Brightech Motorsport. He tells me the 52 Fujitsu entry of Matthew White has dropped to 7 cylinders now. They need to get this car to the finish, but to be classified a finisher, they must complete 75% race distance. So that's their mission right now. Should also spare a thought for Dunlop, who've had an incredibly busy week. You talked about China there before, Neil. Dunlop already have 3 40-foot containers on their way to China. One left from Melbourne during the week with 400 sets of wets and all the equipment that Dunlop need to fit the tyres over there. Another 2 containers have left from Dunlop HQ in Nagoya, Japan, with 650 dry tyres. Each car for that round will be allocated 20 tyres. That's the indication at this stage. 8 new tyres for practice and 12 tyres for racing in China.
Safety car lights are out. We will get a restart this lap. The order is Ingle, Richards, Ambrose, Wheel, Johnson, Wilson, Scaife, Bauer, Bright and Morrison. Scaife is on the radio complaining about he has run out of water in the car, and it's a pretty hot old day out there, and they've been working pretty hard, these fellas, so he'll be feeling it.
We saw Radicic and Paul Morris quite exhausted. Big thing that's happened here is the huge margin of about 8 seconds or so between Stephen Richards and Marcus Ambrose has evaporated. It's now a one-on-one fight.
Thank you, safety car. Maintain 100 kilometres an hour into pit lane, end of this lap.
Voice of race director Tim Schenken.
So can anyone go with Ingle? Well, we know that Richards can. Has Ambrose got the pace late in this race? What can Paul Wheel do? He's had a tremendous round. He was 3rd coming into this 3rd round of the series. He dropped after a poor race 1, but he's been good in race 2, and there he is, sits 4th now.
The smart blokes here need to keep their eyes open when they get back down to turn 6, because there will be dirt on the road.
All right,
the tyres have cooled out. They've got to be very careful.
Here we go. They're line astern, the green flies, Ingle goes defensive. He dives to the inside right from the word go. And Stephen Richards and Ambrose are fighting. There was contact there. Richards got a little squirrely. And Wheel is tucked in there as well. A couple of lap
Keep it cool, mate. Nice and steady. We want the point.
That's Paul Forgy on the radio to Marcus, just settling him down. It's an aggro Marcus Ambrose this weekend. Got a bit of body language when you see him out there in action.
Well, that interview with Darrell post-race 2 was pretty heated as well, wasn't it? And he's well in contention here. He's staying with Richards. 14 laps to go, though.
He was hugely quick in the second race, and this has been a real break for him, this safety car period. Depends what rubber condition he's got now as to whether he can do much with it.
Johnson needs to get through some of this lap traffic. Bow and Wilson are fighting it out. Bright there's getting the short back and sides from Paul Morris. The Cerame Commodore dicing.
And he's about to get the bad sportsmanship flag, Paul Morris. So the race director's just instructed that he'll be shown the bad sportsmanship flag for something that's gone on there in this pack.
Murphy's in the mix. He's muscling. Seaton's there. Oh, what a pack. Look at him. That's one good thing about safety car periods. It bunches the field up. Wilson's gone.
Once you're out there, out of the race groove, there's just absolutely no grip at all.
He kisses goodbye to a top 10.
The message from Barry Hay, Russell Ingall's crew chief, just prior to the restart was watch for some surprise moves from either Marcus and particularly from Stephen Richards down at the bowl. He was concerned with Russell, with everyone on cold tyres, just some brave movers at the restart.
These 2 or 3 guys really have got an extra squirt of pace above the rest, and they're all running together, matching lap times. Russell's the one with track position, though. They'll have to climb over the top of him if they're going to get by, I think.
Ingle is not off the hook just yet. Richards is not letting him go. Slight clutch problem late yesterday in the opening race for Russell Ingle. And he had a windscreen covered with oil from this man here, Stephen Richards. But he soldiered on for a very solid result. And he's been at the front of this field virtually all weekend, Russell Ingle.
Murphy's in. He was complaining that he's flat spotted a tyre. They're replacing the front right, and they've done the front left as well.
Have a feel of the steering.
You might be able to see here along the whole pit lane, I think it is power steering fluid that's been leaking from Greg Murphy's car. They're now telling him to shut it off, a possible oil pressure problem for the 51 car.
Yeah, they can see that on the telemetry, so they'll either flick the belt off or some other mechanical issue, and there's the oil trail, the telltale oil trail. So
I'll just jump in there, Neil. It's not oil. There's coolant pouring out of the back of this car, so it's a temperature issue. The bonnet's gone down, but in the initial stop when they stopped earlier, it trickled a little out of the right rear, but now you can see all the green coolant pouring out all over pit lane.
It's a day done for them, and you can hear the urgency in their voices. Shut it down, shut it down. 100 grand an engine or more for a V8 supercar engine. And when it sits there ticking over without oil pressure, it just eats itself alive.
So the man who got the hat-trick in New Zealand, and has not been a happy weekend for him here. How things can change from round to round. Meanwhile, his teammates soldiering on. There he is, Paul Wheel, car 50.
He's having a ripper, isn't he?
This is his best weekend in a long time, if not ever.
And he's very well placed at the moment in the points. And so this will add to it handsomely.
Running strong. He's been working very hard with Dave Ward, the new addition to the team. And Dave Ward's primary role is to help and coach Paul with his driving, help refine it, help him qualify better. And that seems to be paying dividends already.
It's a thunderous pack as they go past our commentary point here, that the second and third group of cars, there's more blokes than you can name. They're absolutely nose to tail. And feeling that the aggravation hasn't fully unfolded yet.
Less than 10 laps to go. Anything can happen here. It's Paul Dumbrell in the Autobahn car there. He's a lap down, so he's kind of sticking in there. He's running at their pace, but he is not in the mix. The order's Ingle, Richards, Ambrose, Wheel, Johnson. That's the top 5. Skate from 29th to 6th. That's an outstanding drive. So too for John Bow. Todd Kelly's 8th. Morris is 9th, and Glenn Seaton in the 10.
Last lap before Russell Ingle, 57.56. for Stephen Richards, 57.39. For Marcus Ambrose, 57.55. And then the next group are all in the 8s. Todd Kelly's the only guy further down the order in the 57s. 0.3 is the official margin between Ingle and Richards. Absolutely nothing between them.
There's race leader. The eyes are on. The Ingle eyes.
He's driving well. He's under pressure. He's not making mistakes. Stephen's car just sliding sideways a little there coming out of turn 6. They crest the hill, 245, 250 Ks, and then the uphill braking for turn 7. It's a great section of racetrack.
I reckon there's a slight difference in Russell Ingle this year, and he's erring on the side of conservatism. That doesn't sound too much to cope with. Ingle and conservative in the one sentence, but it's true. He desperately, desperately wants to win this championship. Kelly on the inside of bow, it sticks.
Well, he's been a runner-up about 98 times, hasn't he, Russell? So he wants to break that spell. And he's certainly going about it the right way at the moment.
While one BOC car is damaged and out of the race, the other one is running strong. John Bowe, who got the year off to the best possible way with a victory in one of the races at the Australian Formula One Grand Prix, running nicely here in Western Australia.
Your ears are particularly tuned in. You may notice in the background there's a very rough sounding car out there, and that's the Brightech entry of Matt White, which is running on 7 cylinders.
It's not a positional move. This is just Todd Kelly getting by the lap car of Paul Dumbrell. Now Bowe needs to do the same. Nothing's changed up front. Between Ingle and Richards. And here is the 17 of Stephen Johnson. Since becoming a father a few months ago, he too seems more focused this year. Has some direction and is enjoying having Glenn Seaton as a teammate, very much so.
They showed a lot of promise on Friday, both those guys, and it looked yesterday like Glenn had a real rocket ship underneath him, and then he got tangled up with Bright, and they had that bad pit stop. And we raised the question mark for those of you that saw our Race 1 telecast about, oh, here we go, Bright's gone off the road here, and we talked before about the lack of grip with that car, and that's turn 4 and 5.
Is there a problem with the car or not?
Murph, I guess you can do anything in motorsport. You go from New Zealand to this weekend, complete opposite.
Just an absolute disaster. All mechanical failures. Yeah, don't know why. Just, we had an axle break in the last one. Then we had trying to belt or something on that one. So what can you do?
I guess there's one positive out of it. There's a lot of coolant coming out of the back of it, and I don't know if it's done damage to that engine, but I think you might have a new one for the next round.
There was nothing wrong with that one, so yeah, I suppose we're going to have to. That one's obviously done. I'd say she's dropped oil pressure and may have done some damage, but yeah, that's the way it goes.
Go enjoy your dirt biking tomorrow.
Yeah, mate. Can't wait.
Thanks, mate. Thanks.
A few of these lunatics are all going dirt biking tomorrow, which is a guaranteed injury for one of you. I think you're involved in that, are you not?
I am. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Keep your phone on.
There'll be 3 or 4 drivers missing at the next round, and it might be a smaller commentary team, folks.
And Scaife is relentless in his pursuit. This is the view from Scaife's car. Look at the oil on the windscreen.
Anthony Tratt's also been given the bad sportsmanship flag for ignoring the blue flag. Yes, Scaife's been on the radio moaning about that, and justifiably so. He just can't see out of that screen. And then the worst thing you can do is flick the wiper on, because then all it does is smear it.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just have to deal with it. And I wonder whether that oil, wherever that's come from, has played some role in what happened down at turn 6 before with Greg Ritter and ultimately Brad Jones.
Scaife's got his teammate Todd Kelly right on him, but his pursuit for points is relentless. There's Stephen Johnson up ahead. Kelly's starting to work his teammate. Pushing him hard. Looking at Todd Kelly, riding with
Scaife asking how many to go.
3 to go, 3 to go.
You'll be glad when it's all over, Mark Scaife, tucked up behind Stephen Johnson. teammate Todd Kelly behind. A weekend with so much promise.
Steve Johnson is not out of danger here. Scaife has caught him very quickly.
Stevie actually ended up out of the groove a little bit there through turn 4 then and lost a little bit of ground, so he's vulnerable. And Mark will be trying to sweat on him as much as he can. If he gets a sense that when he applies pressure that Stephen could make mistakes, then he'll be all over him like a rash.
Dick Johnson said to me earlier in this weekend, he said it's about time we start delivering results. We need to do it here, we need to do it this weekend, and strangely enough, it's happened. Stephen Johnson with a 4th in the last race, and he could bag his 2nd top 5 this weekend, his 3rd of the year.
Sorry, mate, 3 to go now.
That would get him back in the right direction, and there's a clarification for Scaife. Can he hang on from Kelly?
I don't think he's too...
Kelly seems to have his measure. Oh, he tries on the inside of Johnson. Kelly's following him through.
We can't see what's going on there with Stephen Johnson, so he was having a real shot at him then.
Yeah. Almost got through, but not quite enough. Can Johnson hold on for the last couple of laps? 2.5 to go from here.
Stephen was really battling down there in turn 1. It ended up where, here we go, here's the replay. So Mark has a go. Stephen was getting all crossed up and sideways. Did they make any contact? I don't think so. But then it ended up changing the rhythm for all those cars through that turn. And if anything, Stephen Johnson came out the other side with a bit of a margin.
Nothing in it up front. Less than around about half a second between Ingle and Richards. Ambrose still runs 3rd. Wheel is 4th. Good points there. Then we join this battle. 5th, 6th, 7th. Johnson, Scaife, Kelly. There's John Bowe back in 8th. Seaton is 9th. And Stephen Ellery has worked his way up to the top 10. That's a solid effort in the sole remaining Better Electrical Ford.
Lee, the Castrol team tell me that they saved the best set of tyres for Stephen Richards until the very, very end. And although he's looming there with Russell Ingle, they say it's unlikely he's going to pressure him at the moment. They want the round win desperately at Castrol Perkins.
They will get the round win by 2 points if the positions remain as is. And Russell Ingle will pick up his first win for the 2005 season. We'll have 3 different winners from 3 races.
You can't fault either of these 2 guys today, can you? They've just done a magnificent job. We've not seen even a hint of a mistake. They're totally in tune with their cars. They're in rhythm. Great lap speed. They're almost locked together lap after lap after lap. Gear change, brake application points, turn-in points. And they're going to get a result. Shame there can't be a couple of winners.
Last lap.
They're on their way home. There's some 40-plus staff at Dick Johnson Racing up in Queensland. This will motivate them to see Stephen Johnson running in the top 5. But it's not over yet. Scaife, we ride with. He's not done with Johnson yet.
The boys have all got their headlights on so that they can thread through the traffic, alert the traffic that they're coming.
Todd Kelly sticking to his teammate. Down into 7 for the final, into 6 for the final time, out of the bowl.
Mark's
Cold corner.
Got good speed on entry there. He's able to brake very late, and he's actually able to use the speed.
It's the Enforcer's Day, though. He finishes on top. 3 races, 3 different winners.
Go, Rusty! Nice work, buddy. Very well done. Couple of 12th up to there. Good drive. Well done.
Oh, it's all on at the final corner.
Excellent job today.
It's on for young and old between the HRT blokes at the flag.
Hey, Rusty, check, mate. Points are coming up.
And this will make the championship very interesting. Steve Richards, he finishes 2nd, but he wins the round. Nice work to the Castrol Perkins driver.
Yeah, that's a great job from those fellas. Outstanding. Really excellent job by that crew. With both their cars, really, when you consider that Ambrose has just been in the wars and still come home 3rd in this motor race. And consolidating their position in the championship. A terrific day for this fella and an outstanding drive also for Stephen Richards.
The series this year kind of mirrors that of the AFL, Super 12 and Rugby League, the NRL, and that is difficult to pick a winner.
Long time coming, guys. Well worth it. Yeah, congratulations.
Dominant performances in round 1 and 2 with Ambrose.
You too, Steve. Did a good race, mate. Yep.
Murphy the clean sweep, and now here today, 3 different winners from 3 races. Good variety, but Stephen Richards wins a round of the V8 Supercar Championship for the first time since Calder Park in 2000. So 5 years since this man has stood on the top of the podium at the end of the day. Team boss Larry Perkins not here, but Larry will know about it now back at home. The VB scoreboard shows us the Enforcer takes out the third one. We know who are on the podium. Paul Wheel, well done, young man. Good drive, so too Steve Johnson. Boy, did he have some pressure from Scaife and Kelly. Take nothing away from the multi-time champion Scaife, who came from 29th to 6th. And Bow, a solid drive for Team BOC. Seaton in the top 9, and that means both West Point Falcons are there. 10th place, Steve Ellery, solid performance in the end. Morris, Bargwana, Tander, they were all in there, weren't they? Punching each other up, it was hard fighting. And Rick Kelly in the top 15 to finish the day. Plenty of stories as we go throughout the field. Greg Ritter was in the wars. Brad Jones ended upside down. Murphy had a mechanical nightmare this weekend. And Wilson kissed it goodbye right at the end when he ran wide on the circuit. Lots to talk about as we take a 3-week break before heading to Sydney's Eastern Creek Raceway. And that man there will be very satisfied with his performance. He may not have won the round, but he's closed the gap to this guy. Defending champion, Marcus Ambrose. It was 15 points coming into this third and final race, and Ambrose has closed that gap. There's Barry Hay, Russell's man. He runs the car, he's race engineer, and a big smile from the little man. He knows he is well and truly in this championship. Thoroughly enjoys coming to Perth, and look at him thanking the crowd.
I thought he was still driving. He's climbed out. He's half climbed out of the thing, the lunatic.
His legs aren't that long, surely. Good work from Russell Ingall. He's a fan's man. He loves the V8 supporters. And he's seen both sides of the coin, hasn't he? When he was a Holden driver, and now he's one of Ford's main men. And that's relief for Russell Ingall.
It's actually quite hard to do. Look at him.
Believe me, his legs aren't that long. That's quite impressive.
Oh dear. Enjoy it, Russell. Good work today.